Yeah, thank you, Julia, and thank you to the audience. Yeah, it's a big pleasure being again here. I guess a lot of the participants in the audience know dynaCERT already. Therefore, I will hurry up a little bit with the introduction for the new ones and will show, of course, what is the development of the company and the perspective since I explained the last time. As you said, Julia, I'm the president of the company, Toronto-based company, and member of the board as a dependent director, board of directors, and also invested with own money. As I believe, of course, in the product and the company. What is the company about? The company is a clean tech company, more than 20 years in the market. We do carbon emission reduction technology, means reducing greenhouse gases and fuel consumption. Means we have an electrolysis unit which separates hydrogen and oxygen. You put in distilled water into a box. I'll show it in a minute. And by that, you separate hydrogen and oxygen. And with that, you reduce or increase the fuel economy, reduce the fuel consumption, as I have less total cost of ownership and less total cost of consumption and life cycle costs. And we will be soon able to generate carbon credits and by that sharing, targeting to share the benefits or the outcome and the payment for the carbon credits with our customer base. Some of you will remember we have already the so-called Vera certification of the process, which is one of the emission reduction authority or carbon credit generating authorities where our process is already certified, which not too many, not to say nobody in our business has already. Therefore, we are there quite ahead. But we are working with them now also on the generation and the application for it, which will be, of course, also being an important next step for the company as well as for our customers. Um, Means that's principally one of the four product groups. A lot of guys have seen it already. It's principally a box to be mounted on a truck, majorly here for Class 8 trucks, for bigger gensets, for different applications. I come to that in a minute. We have it in different sizes for different sizes of the engines. Means this one is our major product. It's mounted to a truck. You will see it in a minute. This one is for smaller vans and buses for one from 1 to 8 liter engines. Majorly, as a principally, it works with all combustion engines, all fuels. But biggest impact and biggest experience of the company up to now is with diesel fuel. But of course, it works also with other fuel types. We come now also into HVO as a vegetable oil applications, which is also now more and more being used in Europe and in some other countries, Canada as well as elsewhere, for replacing or blending the diesel fuel. Therefore, also having their first tests to come. We have also bigger products, which is here for so-called 4C and 6C product, which is majorly for mining and oil and gas and bigger generators, stationary applications, also for oil and gas equipment, ranging from big engines, 30 liters up to 90 liters. This one, 30 to 60 liters with a four membrane solution. This one is called 6C, which is majorly for the very big mining trucks and very big gensets, up to MTUs, to Caterpillars, to Cummins, to Jenbachers, all this type of gensets, up to 90-liter diesel engines. Principally, it's the same membrane alkaline solution, electrolysis membrane in the system. The 6C means it's 6 times the reactor or the membrane being stacked. Same principle, having own ECU. That means it's an independent system, autonomous system, which of course is connected to the vehicle, to the combustion engine, but I will explain a little bit in a minute more. Means principally easy to install, principally easy assembly, but of course cell chemistry is not easy. It's complex, high technology. We are able to manage that. We have experience with the product, as with the group of product, with the base invention since more than 20 years. You know, hydrogen is not a new invention, but now is the time ready and time made here. We all know about the story of battery electric vehicles, whether everything will be now full electric or not. I think we have all the same opinion. There's of course applications where battery electric is reasonable, maybe not in long distance and continuous operations. And as we are in mining and long distance trucking and oil and gas, This is a lot of remote places. There's no battery electric or not enough battery electric infrastructure. And on the other side, there's more and more talks and discussions on pure hydrogen applications, which of course is also not our business. Nevertheless, that we produce hydrogen, but we are principally a retrofitting solution or improving solution for existing diesel engine fleets, existing ones and new ones, which means reducing the fuel consumption and by that also reducing the emissions, which of course is important. I will explain it in a minute. Means we are not there for zero emission. There's inner city, whatever, more and more zero emission solutions to be requested, which will be very likely depending on the application, but maybe in passenger cars or in vans. Somewhere will be complete and fully electric, battery electric, very likely, which is not us, but everywhere where you want to continue with your diesel fleet of vehicles, of trucks, but doing something for your wallet and for your environment. Our solution is ready and is there. We have in total roughly 2,000 units over the year installed. That means we have quite a significant number of experience and installations, and we have also systems out in the field which are running since more than 10 years. Therefore, long duration of the equipment, very stable, and therefore good and easy to use. Means besides the hardware boxes and electrolyzers, we have also an own telematics software, which is called Hydralytica. This is a software which with an own ECU, with own telematics, which is combined to the vehicle's telematics. Usually modern trucks and modern gensets and various applications have an own telematic system. Of course, with a truck, you usually can measure, and the fleet owners do measure the fuel consumption and various parameters. We do the same, and with our telematics, you can compare what the fuel consumption reduction is compared to not using our equipment, what is the emission reduction. Therefore, you can see it on the screen, of course. It means the fleet manager, the CFO, likes our fuel cost reduction, and the ESG guys, of course, like our pollution reduction. And the driver can see it himself. He can influence by that, of course, the values of his driving behavior. In some of the more modern fleets also do pay their drivers by reducing fuel and maybe somewhere also by reducing emissions. Therefore, it's software and hardware which we offer and which is our own product and which we deliver usually on request, or in most of the cases, we deliver hardware and software and the installation to the fleet owners. The installation itself of the series is usually done and supported for the first pilot installations with us and our own network and our own people, our distributors and dealers and service dealers. Then increasing in the fleet, usually the fleets of bigger truck volumes and truck fleets to have own workshops, then they do it themselves with our support and our training and manual. That's principally the logic how it works. With the Hydralytica, with the software, of course, you can see where's the fleets, what's the individual, that's maybe important, what's the individual fuel reduction, also means depending on the driver, depending on the route, and by that also the emissions. It's not per general or only test bed, it's really the individual saving of the individual truck with the individual box, and therefore, of course, the individual driver can influence also to some extent the fuel consumption. Principally, what's our technology about? As said, we produce hydrogen or separate it from distilled water, hydrogen and oxygen. We do it on demand. That means principally it's an autonomous system, but we have connected it to the engine. That means we don't need storage. You switch on the vehicle, means the engine. By that, the electrolyzers is switched on, means no storage. Hydrogen and oxygen is immediately sucked into the combustion chamber in front of the turbocharger into via the manifold, then in the turbocharger being compressed and of course being sucked in and brought into the combustion chamber. There with the earlier hotter combustion, we reduce significantly the fuel consumption, which is more than 5%, depending on the applications, also sometimes 2-digit, but we say above 5%, usually reaching more. And of course, significantly less particulates and pollutions. With a hotter burn, less particulates, less different types of pollution. I come to that. And with that, it's easy to install. Usually it's 2 to 3 hours time necessary to install the unit to the vehicle. You can do it this afternoon. By that, you can save tonight or tomorrow morning already fuel and reduce emissions. This is not a technology as said at the beginning where you need first big infrastructure and whatever hydrogen pipelines or blending in the gas pipeline, or you have to use bottles and you don't need any storage. Therefore, quite easy to use. You have to find an appropriate place at the truck, at the generator set, and then you can use it, you can install it, you can use it, and off you go. Okay, means principally you see there various topics. As mentioned before, we can cover from very small combustion engines up to very big ones with our different product groups. Means from the assembly and complexity, we have 4 types of product with the same membrane and component and the same ECU, which reduces, of course, complexity in sourcing and in assembly. But on the other side, we can cover a wide range of applications and engine types with different types of fuel. Up to now, as said, depending on the fuel price, majorly, very, very majorly diesel, but adding now HVO and maybe more to come. From the application side, it works generally on all mobile and stationary applications, which you can see at the bottom. Up to now, majorly Canadian-based company in Toronto, of course, worldwide activities, but up to now, majorly long-distance trucking. It's mining trucks and shovels. It's oil and gas equipment. They're drilling equipment and gensets, mud pumps, all different types of tough and rough conditions. And long-distance trucking, which of course has the highest impact by continuous operations or a lot of running hours. It works also with other applications, which would be like peak shaving gensets or construction equipment, or with vans in a city or remote or surroundings of the city. But the more running hours you have, of course, the more fuel you can save, and the more emission reduction you can realize. And therefore, we are usually being used in these applications where you have a lot of running hours. Principally, as said, hardware and software, H2 and O2 separated into the engines being used in the different applications. And you do have by that fuel cost savings significantly. You have emission reductions also significantly. And soon carbon credits to be generated, which of course is then also important and very valuable for the operator and the customer. Here you see a test which we did on a dynamometer. You see roughly 10% CO2 reduction. You see more than halving of the particulate matters. You see also more than half of the hydrocarbons, and you see also significant fuel reduction here, 8.9%. And as said, this is a test on a dynamometer, but we have it, of course, more or less with every customer also in a pilot installation. That means depending on the application, depending on the route, we define what is the fuel consumption, what is the emissions without our box, and what is it less with our box. And by this test, with a successful test, you usually get into series orders, which we do. Here you see a few mounting examples. This is on a truck. You can do it at the back of the cabin, or you can do it at a reasonable space at the frame. We don't have to be directly mounted in the engine compartment, which is of course a huge advantage, because you can imagine in various applications you don't have space directly at the engine. But of course we need a connection for the current to the battery, which is a cable, of course. And we have a manifold and a pipe to the turbocharger for sucking in the hydrogen and the oxygen, which is the gas. These 2 connections you need, and this is the installation. But as said, it doesn't need to be directly in the engine compartment, which is an advantage. Here you see an installation in a van, in a bigger van. Before was class 8. This is in class 7. Here is also class 6. Here you see, some of you know it already. We are supplying and being a partner to the Paris-Dakar racing team. with our French good distributor, and therefore you can imagine you want everything, but that your truck is out of order when you do a race trucking. Therefore, it's strong commitment from us, strong commitment here from the race team, and very tough conditions. And they are happy with us. We are happy with them. As mentioned, we marketed our product usually as fuel reduction and emission reduction product and soon carbon credit generating, but also from the torque side with the hydrogen, with a limited small portion of hydrogen being sucked in, we have also additional torque, means the drivers can feel when our system is installed and is operating versus when it's shut down. Therefore, we also have a little bit of performance increase, but we don't sell it or market it as a performance increase product. Nevertheless, that we give some additional torque to the engine or to the propulsion. But yeah, it's also the case. This is our words, and of course, the race team's words also important, or the more important, of course, the feedback from the fleet owners. Here, Scottish truck driver, as he realized also and does realize roughly 9% fuel saving. And on the other side, as we are optimizing the combustion before the after treatment, of course, and as I described, we have a more clean burn and combustion. Therefore, we reduce the particulates which enter into the diesel particle filter and into the engine exhaust system. Therefore, you need also there less regeneration of the filter and it's cleaner for the catalyst. Therefore, of course, it helps the whole system. You may know that hydrogen is also more or less cleaning the combustion chamber. Therefore, we are often asked whether our system does disturb the engine or damage it or whatever. Of course, the other way is the solution means hydrogen is cleaning the combustion. We have a much cleaner burn. Therefore, it's for the engine itself as well as for the after treatment system beneficial, besides the commercial and emission reduction perspective. Here you see an installation at a mining truck, and you see we have put it here. Means also not too far away from the engine, but not directly there where you have some space, but also here the 6C for the bigger trucks. You see here some containers or some genset stationary applications, depending, of course, on the space. We are either in the container if it's in a rain or wet area. If you have space, of course, we could also be outside or in a skyscraper or nuclear power plant. Of course, you are there in buildings. Therefore, more and more also stationary, continuous, as well as more and more peak shaving applications which use our application. And we are at the moment, for instance, doing an installation or a test agreement and very close negotiations with Northern Latin America countries where there is a lot of decentralized energy systems and in natural parks and more green locations. You can imagine also these guys and these governments want to have a reduced emission solution, which will not be zero emissions soon as there's not the infrastructure available, but keeping the existing fleet of diesel gensets more clean. Our solution, for instance, is the appropriate one to do immediately something for the wallet and for the environment. Some of you or that guys who know dynaCERT since a while will know the guy at the left-hand side, our CEO and chairman, Jim Payne. You see myself, you see there Kevin Unrath, our COO and MD of our German and European setup. And you see John Amadeo, our new CFO. Therefore, of course, we have a lot of experience and historical experience with Jim Payne. Kevin and John and myself are having different backgrounds. Kevin and myself come from MAN and from Daimler and MTU and having a lot of experience in engines and applications. John Amadeo was the CFO also of the biggest Canadian steel company up to a few months. Therefore, happy having him also now with us. And therefore, we have a management team which is really, I think, a good mix between historical and heritage experience and new experience, having a lot of knowledge in cell chemistry, but also in propulsion systems and in applications worldwide. And of course, also with the CFO's role, having a clue on investment and investor side and yeah, also on the finance and what to do properly with the money. And of course, we work very closely with the team of Apato, with Mario Rose and the guys and PVC and everybody. Therefore, that's the management. In the board of directors, we have also various capable people. Also, maybe here to be announced, James Tenzi, who is really one of the experts in carbon credits and greenhouse gas reduction and also teaching as a professor teaching at Oxford, being CEO of Carbon Done Right. We have Tanya Roundtree, CBO, MD, being very close with TSX as we are listed at TSX and in Frankfurt and in the US. And we have Doug Seneschen, also very experienced distribution, global sales, big guy at the Penske Corporation, very experienced also with Northern American as well as with Australian business, having a huge network. Everybody of these guys, as well as the other ones, bring in, of course, their expertise and their network to the company, also being invested. We have also additional guys, one on the one side, really for creating now the Vera project and generating the carbon credits with Seth Baruch, who is the CEO of Carbonomics, also an environmental consultancy. We have Dr. Ingo Windroff, member of my former MTU and Detroit Diesel team, and they're heading engine development, former board member of the LIPA, big mining trucks and engines technology, one of the guys if it comes to engines and propulsion systems. And we have Dr. Gerhard Philipp, having convinced him to work with us, who is former Daimler and Ballard fuel cell and hydrogen expert since more than 30 years, also working with us very closely, and some more. Therefore, you see, we added more and more additional competence from the applications, from the technology, from the global markets to the team. And that's how we go into global operations. Means of course, we win partners and develop the hardware further as well as the software here, also with additional telematics partners, software and working on a carbon credit platform is a team approach. We have their IP in general, but also cooperating and working with others. We have a lot of, we show up much more globally now on different applications, different fairs. We have changed a few distributors. Maybe some of you read, we have won a Mexican deal with a frame agreement on 100 units. We are very close now with the new partner and dealer and buddy in Colombia for North and Latin America. We have activities going on in Vietnam now. We have one in Germany, additional logistics companies in France, at mining sites and at ports. Therefore, a lot of activities going on, which of course is team play and efforts. And therefore, also what is important, not only HG1s, also we have now again deals for the big mining trucks with the 4Cs and the 6Cs, which of course, as you can imagine, they are much more expensive product and also good margins with these products. And we continue our Australian and Asian lead offensive, which we started, as said, with Vietnam, but also with Korea and various other countries, exploring also that part of the world more and more. And why do we do that? Of course, we want to increase the volume which we source, which we assemble, which we produce, getting into series production, which we do now, and assembly, getting their experience and cost-saving potentials. On the other side, of course, we need volume and scaling up, and by that, of course, creating revenue and turnover. And we have income out of the hardware, but also more and more to come out of the software, which is our hydroanalytical software, as said before, and working on the carbon credits, which would be, of course, also significant turnover and the more profit contribution. And by that, of course, we want to increase the value of the company and working on the share price, which is for most of you up to now unsatisfying, same as us. But of course, we work hard to increase the volume and scaling up, which is starting, as said, with a lot of leads, doing test installations, which we have now out in the field much more. And by that, with successful tests coming to series deliveries and installations. And maybe having said that, I want to finish here and are open for the questions. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Bernd. We do have a few questions. We have 4 minutes,
Mhm.
so we'll go through. Just one question. Is Mr. Payne still the chairman of the board?
Yeah, also not still. He changed to the chairman at the last AGM. Before it
Okay.
was a gentleman called Wayne Hoffman who
Yep.
retired, and Jim took over as chairman.
Okay, perfect. One other numbers. We do have obviously a lot of questions about sales. Do you have any updates that you did not publicly publish that you can talk about?
Also, of course, as a first, as you say, we are public, therefore we have to follow the official processes. But what
Yep.
I can say is we have, for instance, out of the last fairs at the Bauma, biggest construction fair worldwide, transport logistics in Munich, VDEC in Toronto, various fairs also to be executed this year. Roughly a list of only in Europe 420 leads and worldwide more. And the audience knows a lead is not automatically turnover in sales, but it's a real big base of interested parties. And you know the process from cold leads to hot leads to testing to successful test to become customers. What do I want to say? The basis of creating sales is definitely much bigger than a year before. And we have converted some of the leads, as mentioned before, in France, for instance, with ports, with a reference project at an Atlantic port for global ports. And therefore, also, as I said before, with Vietnam, we are talking there also to the port authority. Singapore Port Authority we became visible there. Therefore, we enter into additional applications, and of course, the target is to grow sales to reach break-even point. Up to now, we are not at break-even, but we are hard working to make it happen as soon as possible.
Perfect. Question from Mark. Mark, how has the capital raise in recent funding rounds been utilized?
Good point. Thank you for the question. As a first, we, together with our Platon and various friends, we are able to raise money, which of course is first a good signal. Secondly, thanks to the investors and audience who are invested in us. Thirdly, the use of the money is on the one side, pre-assembling and pre-manufacturing quite a significant number of boxes being immediately available to deliver from stock. As I said, this is of course invest into product. This is invest into processes, in getting into series processes. And we assigned or hired a few, not hundreds, but a few new salespeople. We kicked out some distributors, announced and assigned a few new ones, and did move, for instance, in Europe to a Munich office and representation. This costs all not millions, but of course some money. And therefore, I think the money is used quite reasonably into growing the business. But on the other side, as we are not at break even up to now, of course, it's also financing to some extent the loss.
All right. Well, Bernd, on that
Mhm.
concludes the time we had. So thank you for being present with us at the IIF number 16 once again. And we'll be continuing to follow up on the progress that dynaCERT will make in the next few weeks and few months. And until then, well, we wish you best of luck with Hydrogen and dynaCERT.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julian, and thank you so much to the audience. And looking forward talking to you guys individually. Thank you.